Welcome back to The Lead. Right before the break, we broke the story about how some in President Trump's orbit, friends and senior advisors, are telling him he should not sit for an interview with special counsel Robert Mueller. Joining me now is the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff of California. Congressman Schiff, thanks for being here. What's your reaction to CNN's reporting?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the people around the president are urging him not to speak with the special prosecutor. But I don't think the president's going to have much choice about that. The special prosecutor, special counsel is going to need to speak with him, and I don't think written answers are going to do any good. Written answers are the lawyer's testimony, really not the individual. And here, obviously, the president has a lot to say when it comes to Russia and the connections with Russia, Mike Flynn, as well as the issue of obstruction of justice. So I think he has a lot to say and a lot that the special counsel will want to hear, regardless of the scope of what the special counsel is looking at. I think his testimony is going to be very necessary. But I'd be worried if I were one of the president's advisors. I mean, just look at this morning. The president issued a statement after watching Fox that was patently false, and then it was forced to correct it minutes later. That's a very scary prospect as a lawyer to have a client like that.
In your view, Congressman, does the special counsel need to be interviewed for the investigation to be completed, or would written answers, for example, suffice?
I think he will need to interview the president, and no, I don't think written answers will suffice. The problem with written answers, in addition to the fact that they don't really speak for the person, they speak for the attorneys for the person, is that they can be very carefully calibrated to avoid giving any useful information and be technically accurate but be completely misleading. When you have an opportunity to question someone in real time, that makes that very difficult, particularly if you're being asked questions by a skillful examiner, which I think Bob Mueller and his team certainly possess in great number. So no, written answers are not going to be sufficient at all.
The White House took a shot at you today, and I want to give you an opportunity to respond. They were asked about how Senator Dianne Feinstein, Democrat of California, the ranking Democrat on Judiciary in the Senate, she released the transcript of the co-founder of Fusion GPS testifying on Capitol Hill behind closed doors. Fusion GPS, as you know, is behind the Russia dossier. Take a listen to how Sarah Sanders responded to the question.
We certainly think it's a gross overstep by Senator Feinstein to release that transcript. There's been a lot of comments about obstruction of justice, and frankly, the only people that we've seen trying to influence the investigation are former Director Comey and Democrats in Congress, and that would include Senator Feinstein, Representative Schiff, who have both selectively leaked to the media witness interviews.
So she is accusing you of selectively leaking to the media witness interviews. Your response, Congressman?
Well, I think all the press that have dealt with me in this investigation know, often to their frustration, that I don't discuss the contents of our investigative interviews. The only exception I make is when people refuse to answer questions, because I don't let them hide behind a closed session and then leave the room and say, "We operated fully." So I'm not surprised by Sarah Huckabee Sanders' attack, but at the same time, I applaud what Senator Feinstein did. She has the latitude that we don't have in the minority in the Intelligence Committee to make that decision unilaterally, but I would also urge our committee to release those transcripts.
So just to be clear, she said that you leaked to the media witness interviews. False?
Absolutely false. And if the White House doesn't know it, they should know it, but then the facts don't make much difference to Sarah Huckabee Sanders or to the president, for that matter.
Do you want an apology?
You know, they owe me an apology, but frankly, it would be a wasted errand to ask for one. And if Sarah Huckabee Sanders is going to have to give out apologies to everyone that she has criticized unfairly, she would be doing nothing else all day.
I want to ask you, today you briefed reporters and said there are additional witnesses who knew about that June 2016 Trump Tower meeting with the Russian lawyer promising dirt on Hillary Clinton. Who are these other individuals, and are you going to be able to speak with them?
Well, there are individuals that were aware of the meeting and the purpose of the meeting that we would like to have come before our committee. We've requested that they be brought before the committee and asked the majority to do so. They have not been willing to do that, and I don't think we can do a complete investigation unless we take that step. and a great many others. It's also important, Jake, that we get phone records involving the participants in that meeting, as well as candidate Trump's phone, so that we can determine whether there were phone communications between these parties that were contemporaneous with that meeting. These are very basic foundational investigative steps that we have not been permitted to do by the majority, and I hope we will, because there's no way we can represent that we're doing a thorough job if we don't.
Who are the individuals you want to talk to, though? Are they Trump campaign employees? Are they Trump corporation employees? Who are you wanting to talk to?
Jake, at this point, I don't want to be specific. The majority is well aware of the witnesses we've requested. It may become necessary down the road, if they do try to shut down the investigation, for us to publish a list. Here are the witnesses. Here's what we're interested in talking to them about. Here's why we know they have relevant information. But I'd rather not have to do that, but that step may be necessary.
Steve Bannon, in the book Fire and Fury, is quoted saying that the chances that Donald Trump Jr. didn't march the individuals who participated in that June 2016 Trump Tower meeting to his father's office one floor above, that the odds that didn't happen is 0. Have you ever heard any evidence at all that President Trump himself, then candidate Trump, met with any of those individuals?
You know, Jake, I don't want to get into the evidence that's been presented to us, but I can tell you we are interested in speaking with Mr. Bannon. It's my expectation that we will do so. We'll be able to ask him the basis of those comments, as well as the basis of his concern over money laundering and why this meeting at Trump Tower represented, in his view, treason and certainly unpatriotic at a minimum. So we'll be looking forward to having Mr. Bannon before our committee and asking him those questions.
How are things going on the House Intelligence Committee? It seems like there are some pretty deep divisions right now between you, the ranking Democrat, and the Republican chairman, Devin Nunes. Are you cooperating on anything?
Well, yes, and in fact, you know, we had the FISA bill come up this morning. That was a bipartisan work product and a very tough issue to wrestle to the ground. In terms of the Russia investigation, my day-to-day interactions are with Mike Conaway, and I think those have been very positive. But the key decisions as to what witnesses will be brought into the committee, when they'll be brought in, who subpoenas will go out to, those are made by the chairman. Those are made completely unilaterally without any consultation with the minority. We're often informed about it after the subpoenas have gone out, and that obviously is a continuing problem. In the minority, we're doing the best we can to run a credible investigation, notwithstanding those obstacles, and we're learning a great deal, but that certainly doesn't make it any easier.
Did the president's tweets this morning, or at least the initial tweet, where he seemed to be lobbying against the reauthorization of the FISA bill that his administration had been lobbying in favor of, did that tweet, because Nancy Pelosi asked Paul Ryan to pull the bill, obviously she was concerned that it might not pass, did that tweet hurt the efforts of those who wanted that reauthorization bill to pass, which it ultimately did? Absolutely.
And early this morning when those tweets started coming in, I also asked that we hold off because it created so much of a cloud of uncertainty about, among other things, what was the administration's position on this bill. So yes, he almost doomed the bill. If I could make one national security recommendation to the president, it would be stop watching Judge Napolitano on Fox. This may be the only time where the country would benefit from a national security point of view if the President of the United States were watching cartoons in the morning instead of something else.
All right. Congressman.